Now it's my very great joy and honor to introduce our patron, our dear Maharajaji, Dr. Tony Nader. He received his MD degree from the American University of Beirut, where he also studied internal medicine and psychiatry. His PhD is in the area of brain and cognitive science from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. He was a clinical and research fellow in neurology at the Massachusetts General Hospital, Harvard Medical School, an assistant director in the Clinical Research Center at MIT. Presently, he is the international president of Maharishi Vedic Universities, Maharishi Universities of Management, and Maharishi Open University. Dr. Nader conducted research in neurochemistry, neuroendocrinology, and the relationship between diet, age, behavior, mood, seasonal influences in neurotransmitter and hormonal activity, and on the role of neurotransmitter receptors in medicine. While at MIT, he conducted the first scientific research on Maharishi Ayurveda, including the effects of various herbs and rasayanas. Under Maharishi's guidance, he taught Nadi Vigyan to more than 6,000 students around the world, many of them professional medical doctors. He was presiding physician at the famous Maharishi Ayurveda Health Center in Lancaster, Massachusetts, USA. And when Maharishi introduced Maharishi Vedic vibration technology, Dr. Nader was the one Maharishi chose to lead this most powerful and advanced program of Ayurveda. Dr. Nader has successfully correlated each aspect of the Vedic literature to the specific areas of human physiology and autonomy, as well as the cell and the DNA, with the conclusion that human physiology is the expression of Veda and Vedic literature. This is the subject matter of 5 of his published books. He also published a book on Ramayana in human physiology, which extended this profound scientific elaboration of the scientific significance of Veda. The practical application of Dr. Nader's discovery has been documented by original research conducted by medical doctors and scientists, which demonstrates the effectiveness of Vedic sounds and Vedic vibrations for the treatment of chronic disorders. In appreciation for his achievements, Dr. Nader was honored by Maharishi with the title Maharaja Adiraj Rajaram and given responsibility for guiding the global country of world peace, the umbrella organization for all of Maharishi's worldwide legacy. I would like also to mention Dr. Nader was recently keynote speaker at a 2-day international conference to re-establish Vedic India in New Delhi, during which time he was met with the President of India and numerous union ministers to discuss how Maharishi's Vedic science offers proven solutions to India's problems through the application of practical programs to create an ideal society. So I would like to request Maharaj to address us.
It's a great joy to be in this great land that Maharishi loved to call the land of wholeness, whole land, Holland. And it's very auspicious that our conference for wholeness is in this great part of the world, which is an area of great openness, great intelligence, great technology, and really deep into opening up to advances in all fields of life. And our conference of Ayurveda is really of that kind of reality, a reality of wholeness. Because Ayu and Ved together is, as Dr. Bauhofer beautifully expressed, the reality of knowledge in life and total knowledge in full life is what we are embracing. And in this sense, the conference also welcomes, and the Ayurveda scope, as Maharshi has shown it, encompasses all fields of knowledge. The term Ved itself means knowledge. And the Ayu with total knowledge of life, total knowledge of all aspects of life. So we are dealing with a science and a technology. A science means the knowledge, and Vedic science is a term that Maharshi has put forward to indicate the knowledge of natural law, the laws of nature, how nature works. We have the knowledge of gravity, of electromagnetism, of different values of forces and aspects of the laws that determine the physical world. We have laws that determine the chemical interactions of molecules. We have laws that are on the biological level, how the cells interact with each other, and then how we have organs and organ systems, and how they create the entire human physiology, which also has then its own laws that actually interact with other human physiologies, creating social laws, behavioral laws, and then national and international laws. The basic paradigm is that we live in a universe that is orderly. It's not chaos. And that's why there are laws that conduct all of these different aspects of the universe, be it from the most subtle levels in physical and even beyond the physical, in the quantum mechanical, in the unbounded field of the unified field that Dr. Hagelin will beautifully bring to light, and then all the way up to the human physiology, to behavior, to society, and to relationships between nature, between the individual and the environment, and the relationships between governments that create the whole areas of international interactions. So Ayurveda that we are considering really has a scope to be on this vast level of reality, from the non-physical as it becomes the physical, and all levels of the physical expressions. And what we are looking at is how to understand what these aspects of nature are and how to manage them so that the individual doesn't make mistakes, doesn't fall sick, and that society also is free from disease. And in this case, disease extends not only to absence of specific health problems, but also absence of conflicts and difficulties between nations. So it's really the scope of this meeting is huge, and therefore when we talk of Ayurveda, we are really thinking about perfection in life and totality of life being lived in its wholeness in every possible way and every possible field. And the question comes to us, is this even theoretically possible to get to that point? And this is what this conference will elaborate from different perspectives. There will be, I'm sure, discussions about the molecular level, about the herbs, the plants, how they interact, about more fine than the molecular level, the sound level, how the sounds influence the physiology, how the sounds influence the environment, the levels of behavior, behavioral rasayanas, behavioral cycles of nature, how we interact with them. But in order to really understand that this is possible and not just an ideal that we are tending towards, we look quickly into various highlights of what Ayurveda is and what really Veda is. So we said Veda is total knowledge. It's a term in Sanskrit which means knowledge, It's like you say in English, knowledge, or conocimiento in Spanish, or connaissance in French. It's just a term that really means knowledge. Of course, people have interpreted Veda in different ways. It's a knowledge of spirituality. There are religions that have come out of it, and there are different philosophies that have come out of it, different sciences that have come out of it, and therefore people might tend to understand Veda in different ways. But Maharishi has brought Veda in its totality as being pure knowledge, and that is the knowledge of the laws of nature. And he has looked at all of these aspects of this ancient knowledge that is Veda from the different perspectives that are available in ancient India and has come to us through an oral tradition, and found that there are 40 of those aspects, 40 highlights of those aspects. And Veda itself, the totality of the knowledge is available in Rig Veda. And these 40 aspects, they have Rig Veda as a holistic value. And then you have total knowledge seen from the perspective of the subject, the individual perceiver, it's Sama Veda. And you have knowledge seen from the perspective of the process of observation that connects the individual to the object, and that is Yajur Veda. And there is knowledge from the perspective of the object itself, how you look at an object, what is the object itself, and that is Atharva Veda. Now, like this is being developed into these categories, and there is total knowledge, Veda, and then there is the different aspects of the knowledge, Vedanga it's called. The Angas means the limbs of the Veda. And then there are the Upaveda, the supportive aspects that actually explain more in details those values that are in this global total knowledge. And Ayurveda is one of these Upavedas, which means the supportive knowledge, and it is supportive to total Veda. So Veda is the Ayurveda of Rig Veda. So this is Rig Veda, total Veda, Sama, Yajur, Atharva, and this you have the Vedangas, and then you have the Upangas, the supportive Vedas. Out of these 40 aspects, 9 are for Ayurveda, and Maharishi lists them here. We have them, Charak, Sushrut, Bhav Prakash, etc., Madhavnidan. They are 8 values. These actually deal mostly directly with the human physiology. But out of these 40 aspects, for example, one is very familiar, yoga. Yoga is one of the 40 aspects of Veda. And it's one of the Vedangas that are Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Karma, Mimamsa, Vedanta. So this will situate for us that Ayurveda is one of the supportive aspects of total knowledge. What does it mean? The total knowledge of natural law in Rig Veda, how is it expressed? If you were today, you can say, great, all that science is looking for is to understand what connects what in which way, which means what are the forces of nature, what is gravity, what is electromagnetism, etc. So if I was to open this book of Rig Veda and read it, would I find a description about electromagnetism or about gravity? And Maharishi says, no, it is not like that. It is actually the sound value of the laws of nature and their structure, how they are structured. So when the unified field of natural law, which we will hear more about, is described, mathematicians describe the interactions within the unified field on a very fundamental level, and there are formulae that come out of that. One of them, the Lagrangian, that describes the mathematical propagation and description of the unified field. And if you were to look at the Veda itself, you would see actually the same structures of those manifestations. So you would see a mathematical formula, if you like, described in structures of Veda. Therefore, it's a much more complex aspect of knowledge, which is based on really mathematical description, not just a speech or a philosophy of explaining how the laws of nature work. Now, you do get to the explanation of how nature works in a little more detailed level when you get to those Upavedas that actually talk about the laws of nature in specific ways. And this is where Ayurveda comes as a science to elaborate in more specific details those abstract values of natural law that are available in Rig Veda. So where does this knowledge come from? It comes from direct experience, from direct intuition, through what we call the tradition of Vedic masters, which is why we have done, for those who are not familiar, a little bit ceremony and garlanding, because we go back to the tradition and thank those who have given us this tradition. It is not a religious performance, it's not a belief system, it's just a recognition of the tradition that gave us this knowledge, and we have that tradition highly honored, that are what we call the rishis of the Veda, that comes to us, that bring to us that knowledge. And Maharshi is one of those knowers. The rishi means knowers, that knows the Veda and has explained it to us. And that's why we like to call Ayurveda, in our full value of Ayurveda, encompassing the total knowledge of Veda, we call it Maharshi Ayurveda. So Maharshi Ayurveda aims at developing the full potential of the individual and creating a disease-free society. How we develop, what is the individual? The individual is in his range or her range of life, of human life, starts from being the sense of self, know thyself, our intellect, our mind, our senses, our body, our environment, and our universe. All of these constitute what we are. And we cannot just address the body, for example, and say this is the physiology, and that's what health is about. Health is about being, is about the sense of self, who am I, about how my intellect works, how my mind wanders, about my senses, what do I feel, what do I smell, what do I hear. Everything that comes to me influences me, transforms me. You hear a lecture, you go through a conference, you are a different person, you come out with a different perspective. We are constantly evolving, and everything we hear, we listen to, be it on the level of the intellect or on the level of the mind or the senses, influences who we are and changes what we are. Maharshi says, somebody gives you a flower, if in your mind you think, oh, what is behind this man's thinking? Maybe they want to give me the flower so that they get something out of me. Your behavior changes, your physiology changes, your molecules that are secreted in your body are different than if you open up, somebody comes beautiful, coming for connection, for wholeness, for unity value. So the perception is important in how we digest every experience in our life. The quality of our life is changed by the sounds, for example, that we hear. That's why people like to go to concerts, because it's soothing. There is a harmony in the sound that is in tune with the harmony of our physiological functioning. And that harmony is nourishing. You can have loud sounds, noises that actually disturb the physiology. And therefore, when we look at the individual as a whole, we have to address all of these values. And that's what Ayurveda does. In summary, if we look at what we've been saying, is this is an individual person, and this chart has been developed by our physiologists and our scientists. This is, society is made out of individuals. They're made out of individual beings. This is made out of organs, organ systems, organs, and then you go down to molecules, from cells and all of that to molecules, to the DNA. And then you ask, what's the DNA made of? It's made out of atoms, and these are forces of nature. And then ultimately, as we will know, these, if you get to finer and finer levels of nature, you discover the unified field. And this is purely physics, and Dr. Hagelin will elaborate on this. we reach a state where there is one unified field of all the laws of nature, which becomes itself in its own internal vibrations and dynamics, becomes the fields of electromagnetism and gravity that then are perceived on a grosser level as atoms, and then atoms get together, they become molecules, molecules become cells, cells becomes organs, organs become organ systems, and then the human physiology, one individual, and together we form society and the universe. And in this way, we can see the range of human life is from that field all the way up. One of the main approaches of Maharshi Ayurveda is to take the individual to transcend, which means to go to the unified field, which is the self of everything and everyone, and from there nourish all of the other aspects of physiology. So we start from that unmanifest value of our true being and go to the reality of all aspects of our physiology. I will highlight a few general points of Ayurveda, which many of these points will be elaborated in this conference. That Maharshi Ayurveda, or Ayurveda in general, is a health science. It's not a science of disease necessarily. It does treat disease, but it's not a science of disease. One might wonder, what's the difference? Because somebody has a disease, you remove the disease, they become healthy. Problem is, when you come to your office as a doctor, the doctor can say, well, what have you seen today? He can be asked. He says, well, I've seen one diabetes, I've seen one high blood pressure, I have seen one person who has a tumor, I have seen this, I have seen that. So the doctor sees a number of diseases. In Ayurveda, the doctor doesn't see diseases. In Ayurveda, the doctor sees human beings. He sees individuals. He sees individuals who have a whole physiology, a whole history, a whole behavior, a whole context. And he is treating the individual, and the disease will disappear and run away by itself. It's like bringing the light and darkness disappears. If you're dealing with shadows in a room, you can start fighting the shadows, and that will be a difficult task. You can bring the light, and light makes the shadows disappear. Ayurveda focuses on bringing the light, which means bringing balance, increasing health, and the body has the inner ability to remove the disease and fight the disease by creating balance. So there is a huge difference between a science of health and a science of disease, and that can be also elaborated on in the conference. What this gives us is the science of health actually is going to deal with an individual. Then an individual has a body type. We are all looking the same. We have the same general structure, but there are constitutions that are different. Some people are a temperament of being fast, some slow, some digest faster, some slower, and you will go through this conference with all the very delicate and profound constitutional body types that Ayurveda has, which has an impact on how one is going to interact with one's environment, with the herbs, with the plants, with the food, with all aspects of one's daily living. And therefore, the first thing the Ayurvedic doctor will do is actually say, who am I seeing? It's not what disease am I seeing. And they'll start through questioning, they'll take the pulse, there is a certain questionnaires, and they'll know this individual has a tendency for this, a tendency for that. So we study our patient, we know our patient, and on that basis we can now start thinking what time of the day it is, what season it is, what food it is. And all of these things are influencing the individual, and therefore we are looking at an individual human being under specific circumstances, and then we look what those circumstances and what this individual being is being exposed to, and how now we can understand why there is an imbalance and why a disease process has emerged, and how to get rid, of course, of the disease, but through the nourishing value, not attacking necessarily directly the disease, but strengthening the physiology so that the disease is eliminated. Of course, there will be aspects and factors that target directly the disease process. So that is the main value of Ayurveda as an individual health science. Also, Ayurveda, and this is something can be usually disregarded because we are all running around thinking everything is fine until a disease comes, and then we can look for cure. Ayurveda, Maharishi Ayurveda concentrates on prevention. Prevention is the main aspect. And when it concentrates on prevention, it concentrates on educating the people, how to eat, how to live routines, what is their individual body types, how this interacts with the environment, at what time, what happens. And therefore, we're constantly health promoting, not constantly disease destroying, but constantly, every time we live, we breathe, we do our things, we have a routine, what time we sleep, what time we do what in our day, what is good in what season, what food we eat in what season, based on our own personal individual body type, is a constant value of health promotion. I remember Trigunaji, the father and great leader of Ayurveda health, he used to say, Ayurveda is, in terms of herbs and medicines, it's like kitchen medicine. It's teaching the mother and the father, whoever cooks at home, how to actually prepare the food that is appropriate for the people. And the herbs that what we have, the plants that we have, are natural food-like aspects of treatment that actually nourish and balance the physiology. Maharishi Ayurveda takes the individual to a new and complete level of knowing oneself. Not only as know what is your qualities, what are your difficulties, what are your problems, but know who you are in terms of physiology, your body type, and how your body reacts with the environment, and also takes you to know exactly who you are as a whole. Ultimately, to know that you are the universe, you are everything, which is you are the unified field. This is an obvious thing when we look at the chart that we have just seen. Who is this individual sitting here? Who is this society? It's a number of individuals. Who is the individual? Is it the organ systems? Is it the organs? Is it the molecules, the cells? Is it the electromagnetic field? And as you go deeper, you find physically, actually, in all reality, from an objective perspective, forget about Ayurveda, we are the unified field of natural law. So knowing thyself is knowing oneself to be unbounded, infinite, pure existence, pure being, and that all these differences that are on the outside are a joy of the creation that leads to all kinds of manifestations, but ultimately the true self of everything and everyone is that unified field of natural law. So that wisdom of knowing thyself should not limit itself to knowing my qualities, my difficulties, my abilities, but knowing that I am infinity, I am pure being. And that is why transcendental meditation, which takes us directly to that unified field, is a very powerful aspect of Ayurveda. And Ayurveda says, know Atma. Atma is the self, that's the reality. And by knowing that, you enliven all of the other aspects, and that's why there are hundreds of scientific research studies, maybe 700 by now, conducted in all great institutions in the world that show the power of going to the self, of transcending, which makes everything else become better in life on the level of the molecular level. Biochemistry of the body changes, on the level of behavior, on the level of performance, and even on the social level, the city program and the group flying that change the behavior of society towards integration, less conflict, and fullness of life on society level. So know thyself is know thyself to be unbounded pure being. And why is this important? It's because we have said we want to create, what is the aim of Ayurveda? You can say, what is the aim of a medical procedure? You say the aim is to remove disease, to remove that tumor, or to remove that imbalance in the physiology. So we want to know, what is the aim of Ayurveda? The aim of Ayurveda is to create enlightenment, to create perfection in life. Maharishi used to say, an individual comes to you as an Ayurveda doctor, and they think they're coming to improve their blood pressure or to remove their diabetes or to do something like that. But you know they're coming to you to become enlightened, to become a perfect individual. So this disease that is a problem is almost a good excuse to come to the doctor, and the doctor will remove the problem, but will know more than the patient, will take the patient from a level of ignorance about who they are to simply knowledge of who they are. That's all that there is about enlightenment. Enlightenment is not some mystical, spiritual kind of esoteric experience. Enlightenment means know who you are and know that you are infinite, pure being. Know that you are the unified field, which physics tells us. But you know this not only intellectually, which is also helpful, you know it directly by directly experiencing it within yourself. That is the purpose of Ayurveda. So these steps that take us from a physiology that has to be balanced, ultimately to a physiology that can live perfect totality and wholeness in life. And for this to be a reality, we can say that this is the reality of what Ayurveda says. Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. It says that as is the atom, so is the universe. As is the body, so is the cosmic body. That is the purpose of Ayurveda. But what is beautiful is that all the Vedic literature says that. Thou art that. That we are born out of bliss, and in bliss we move, and to bliss we go. And all this is totality. In the Tao, not only in the Ved, in Vedic tradition, in the Tao, it says the nature of heaven belongs to man. In the Bible, God created man in his own image. In the New Testament, the kingdom of heaven is within you. In the Quran, and on earth are signs of God for those of assured faith. They are within you. Do you not perceive them? In a poem by a great Muslim, another sect of Islam, the Shiite sect, Imam Ali, says, also like in Ayurveda, he said, consider yourself to be a small atom in which the whole universe is folded within. So if all our traditions and all that we believe in and all that people believe in from different perspectives tell us that we have perfection within us, that we are made in the image of the divine, that we have total natural law within us, then we can expect that this should be lived in daily life. And Ayurveda is that science that helps us, that knowledge that helps us to get there, to know ourselves and to live that reality of fullness which is within us. These words of the different traditions, from Veda to the Tao to the Buddhism to all of these same traditions, same basic words, are not just philosophical ideas. Maharishi took it very literally, and he asked me to do a research on how is the body made, how is the physiology made. What are the laws of nature that construct this human body? And he said, if we are the totality of natural law, and we contain that huge wisdom that all religions and all spiritual teaching tells us, therefore, we must be able to find this even in our human body and the way it works. He also said, if Veda is total natural law, so our body should look like Veda. And that was the research that I was so fortunate to undertake under Maharishi, in which I took the Vedic literature in its structure, physical structure, how many lines, how many syllables, how many divisions, how many words are in this structure, and how they evolve from one to the other, and looked at the human physiology and found that all these 40 aspects of Veda and Vedic literature are the actual blueprint of how we are made. It's as if Veda is the architectural design, like a drawing of an architect, and we are the building. Veda is there, the science of natural law. If you look at it from pure, uninterpreted perspective of its simple structure, and you look at our own structure, human body, you find it's exactly the same. And now we know, as this research has shown, and the time doesn't allow, to go through all of these things. For example, yoga. All yoga, everybody's familiar, and now it's becoming a big thing, but only on the level mostly of physical exercise. But yoga is meaning unity and unifying value. All of the yoga is in our human brain. Every sutra of yoga, every line is related to one aspect of the brain functioning. And like that, all aspects of Veda that we have seen, the 40 aspects, are in our human physiology. Every aspect of this has been reported in these books, where every artery, every vein, every cellular structures, molecules, components, connections of cells are actually related to one or the other aspects of Veda, and they are all within our human physiology. Even if we take it to the level of the cells, to the level of the physical reality, we find that Veda is science and technology. It is at the same time subjective and objective. It is relative and absolute. The ability of a human being to be totality is real. The promises of all these great traditions of knowledge is not just inspirational and philosophical. And Ayurveda is here, Maharishi Ayurveda in its completeness, to bring the individual from being a football of situations and circumstances to be a master of one's own destiny and society to live in a disease-free, conflict-free life. And it's wonderful that this conference is happening in a great land of wholeness, for Ayurveda is wholeness in health. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, dear Maharajaji. It was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. And Dr. Bauhofer would like to give a gift to you on behalf of the organizing committee.